Alright, this is lesson 8-1, talking about relations and functions. Today there's a couple of vocab words that you need to know, and we're starting off with domain and range. Now, the domain of a function are all of your x values, and your range will represent the y values. Remember, x and y are our coordinate points, but they also represent the input functions and the output, where the domain is the numbers that you plug in, and your y's will be your output. So domain and range, x and y. Now, a relation between the 2 points is a set of ordered pairs. So whenever I can write x, y, there's a certain relation between them. And we'll look at that in future lessons. But today what we're doing is we're determining if a relation is a function or not, or we're determining if the set of domain values and the set of range values can be described as a function. A function is where each member of the domain is paired with exactly one member of the range. So let's take a look at what that means. On this first example, I've got my domain numbers and I've got my range numbers. And these arrows indicate the relation between. So 0 and 1 match up, 1 and 2 match up, and so on. This would be considered a function because each of the domain values match up with one of the range values. And so the key is having a separate domain for each range. I can have functions going toward the same range, but I can't have a domain going to two different ranges. Take a look at this example. 1 goes to both 2 and 3. That can't happen in a function. So if I was given this set of domain values and this set of range values, we would consider this to be not a function. Like I said before, I can have different domain values going to the same range value. So here I've got domain and range. 2 and 4 both go to the number 2. And that's okay because I've got one domain value for each range. So this would be considered a function. That's one of the ways, just by looking at my sets of values to determine if it's a function. There's one more test that y'all will be doing today. That's the vertical line test. So as I'm looking at a set of domain and range numbers, I can place them in a graph. We'll be doing that later on with future lessons. Functions are the display of my points, and the functions will sometimes be in a line, and I can use a test from my graph to determine if they are in fact a function. If I can work through my graph and there isn't 2 points on the same vertical line, then I have a function. So I can use my pencil or pen or just looking at the graph. If there are 2 points on the same vertical line going across, then you do not have a function. So let's say if I'm looking at these values here on the left, and I start plugging in -4, -3. It'd be somewhere around here. And then I plug in 2, 0. And I plug in 2, 3. And I plug in 4, 3. And then 5, -4. Something along those lines. Looking at these values, there's only one dot on this vertical line. On this vertical line, there's 2 dots. That means this is not a function. I can have 2 dots on the same horizontal line, but I cannot have 2 dots on the same vertical line. So those are my 2 different ways to determine if I have a function with domain and range.